If we remember before, we saw that all of our energy for cells comes from glucose. Glucose is a molecule that you get from carbohydrates. But what exactly is it used for? And how exactly and who uses it is yet to be seen. We're going to see the first part of this today with the mitochondria. Let's have a brief refresher though. Remember before that glucose is a carbohydrate that gives you energy. You can get it from candy, but most of the times you get it from other food as your source of energy. Okay, so we've seen that, refresher, carbohydrates is used and glucose is used, but what goes from there? Who takes over? That's going to be our friend the mitochondria. Let's take a look at what exactly the mitochondria is. The mitochondria. What is the mitochondria? Is the organelle that produces energy for the cell. The mitochondria is an organelle that sits within the eukaryotic cells. Its main job is to create energy. In other words, taking glucose and transforming it into ATP. Turns glucose into cell energy. Cell energy equals ATP. So I kind of told you half of the truth in terms of glucose and energy. Yes, glucose is the molecule that your body eats to get energy. However, what the cells actually use for energy is ATP. The mitochondria is the one that takes this glucose, breaks it down, and transforms it into this ATP molecule. Glucose is a rich energy molecule. However, it's unusable by the cells. ATP, however, is easily usable. So the trick of the mitochondria is taking the energy from glucose and transforming it into ATP so it's usable by the cell. The process is called respiration. Does process called respiration. Currently, you think of respiration as probably the act of breathing in and exhaling out CO2. However, the actual act of respiration is a cellular process. When we think of breathing and respiration, it's just kind of a side effect of it. Similar, but very different. We need the oxygen and CO2. Think of it this way. You're breathing harder when you run or play football. You're doing a higher amount of respiration because you're using a higher amount of energy. In other words, turning more glucose into ATP. This happens in all sports, from football to basketball to hockey, if there was a hockey season. Not bitter at all on that. What is respiration? Respiration is how cells create ATP. ATP stands for adenosine triphosphate. We're going to go into the actual process of respiration and how ATP is formed later. For now, just realize that it's taking glucose and turning it into ATP. ATP is a very high energy molecule. ATP is so high in energy, it's what powers your cells. Millions of these molecules go throughout your body, energizing your proteins, allowing them to do what they need to do. When ATP is used, it turns into ADP. ADP stands for adenosine diphosphate. It's lower in energy. ATP, because it's the high energy molecule, has 3 phosphates. However, ADP, because it's missing a phosphate, is a much lower energy molecule. In respiration, the mitochondria takes glucose and water and turns it into turn ADP into ATP. Once again, the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. It takes glucose sugar and uses that energy to make ADP into ATP. So the question you have to ask yourself is this. ADP still has 2 phosphates. So will the cell ever use that to make energy and create AMP? And if so, will the cell ever create AMP or use AMP and go down to just A? Think about that and look it up and see what you think. All right, have a good